Welcome, theatre addicts. My name is Karen and I'm in North Vancouver at the Presentation House Theatre to see Tales of an Urban Indian, written by Daryl Dennis and produced by Talk is Free Theatre. This production tells the story of an Indigenous man born in the 70s who was raised both on the reserve as well as in the city of Vancouver, and includes a number of characters. The show is performed by Craig Lowson of Royal Canadian Air Farce, and that, I guess, is where the comedic portion of the performance comes in. My understanding is that it's dark comedic, however, so I'm really kind of intrigued on how that's going to play out also well on a moving bus. Yes, you heard me correctly. The performance is actually held on a moving bus, which I believe is the one behind me. So in addition to the performer himself, the interesting content, as well as the very interesting venue, I'm very intrigued to see what we have in store for us over the course of the next 90 minutes. Hey theatre addicts, I'm back. Well, that was an interesting ride, literally. As far as the bus goes, it was interesting for sure. It did have some parts that were kind of where it made sense to be on a bus. For instance, they do take you down Hastings, and part of the story addresses life on Hastings, so that makes sense. However, being that this performance has been done in other cities, I don't know what they do for that, and I do kind of feel that to get that point across, it could have just been held at the Fire Hall Arts Center. So is it necessary to be on a bus? Does it add anything to it? Personally, I don't think so. Was it neat? Sure, I dug it. As for the multiple characters, Craig does do a good job of depicting them. However, I do feel, and my theatre partner felt as well, that some of them weren't as distinct as others. So it was a little harder to tell in the transition. And they actually, he used names when he transitioned, which was helpful. As far as the comedy perspective, personally, I didn't get that. To me, it was definitely dark, as it did tell the story of the gentleman starting at the age of 3 up till his mid-20s, growing up on the reserve, then off the reserve, and back on the reserve, and off the reserve. And, the different expectations and challenges that both put on a child and a young adult growing up in those areas. So, sure, there were some jokes, but to me, having a few jokes or having a few giggles throughout a performance doesn't make it a comedy. Definitely some dark moments, some impact. This is also where I should mention that there are warnings, so coarse language warning, absolutely. And they do note that the content is for more mature audiences, so 16 plus is what they suggest. Overall though, from my own personal dealings and my upbringing in a similar community, not necessarily a reserve, but one with a very large Native community, I did feel that the storyline was very accurate and did a great job of depicting life struggles, challenges, touching on all of the components that you would expect to hear of such a life. So everything from addiction, suicide, death, racism, poverty, fitting in, teenage pregnancy, all those things are addressed. There's actually some moments that are very deep and very dark, and my theatre partner kind of felt that they seemed glazed over, glossed over, weren't as impactful. To me, they were, maybe simply because I could relate a little bit more to them. However, there were some use of visuals as well, which my theatre partner did state did kind of help add some impact to those moments. So as far as what type of theatre this is, again, I wouldn't go with the dark comedy, I would go with dark. I would go that it's a tale with some very dark subject matter, some very real subject matter. You need to go to this with an open mind. You need to expect to feel a little bit uncomfortable at moments. And I think that's usually what you need to go into theatre feeling about, again, depending upon the topic, I guess. So overall, some of the things that I didn't like, again, the bus wasn't overly distracting. The artist did move throughout the bus. You could hear them most of the time, did use a microphone. However, there were times when they played music and the music was a little too loud, and so it's difficult to hear. Possibly like me trying to do this at a bus station leaving North Van. Some of the things that really hit home and that I really appreciated, however, is when he used comparisons. So at one point he spoke to the difference between being old and being an elder, and also spoke about the difference of when people look at you for who you are or what you are. Things like that I thought were very powerful and very well done. So overall, I thought it was a good production. Again, if this type of content appeals to you, then definitely check it out. I wouldn't be hesitant about it being on a bus. It's not really that big of a deal. And if you do go see the performance, we would love to hear your take on it. So please leave comments below. And don't forget to check the Theatre Addicts website regularly for more reviews on upcoming shows, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks, I'm Karen for Theatre Addicts.